And when you're having a group discussion and you talk about something and you go, that was really plain Jane. Well, this movie is pretty plain Jane. Let's talk about Plane, the new action film from Gerard Butler. A pilot finds himself caught in a war zone after he's forced to land his commercial aircraft during a terrible storm. The film stars Gerard Butler, Tony Goldwyn, Lily Krug, Tara Westwood, and many others, and was directed by Jean-Francois Richet. So Gerard Butler in an action plane film. I was on board to check this film out. It is January, and you never know what you're really going to get. And I will say positive about this film is you have Gerard Butler. He is a pilot. And I like that when they're on this plane and he is in charge of being this pilot and they go through all this storm, you really get to see the chaos that ensues when this plane is going down. Now, I just recently got off from a trip where I was on a plane, and I can really see where this is a terrifying thing. So watching this unfold and watching all the passengers and crew have to go through this terrible storm and crash land their plane on a random island, that was really suspenseful, and I give the movie props for having that. There's also parts in this film where, mainly towards the end of the film, where it has some really good action, some good gunshots going off, some little bit over the top points with action, but it does a really good job with that action towards the end of really getting you into the story, at least for that last 15-20 minutes of the film. However, there are negatives in this film that really make this film to be really plain Jane and one-dimensional. You have really shallow characters, you have not so good camera work. There's a lot of shaky cam in this film. I found myself just kind of getting a little dizzy with certain points in this film with how the shaky cam was going. I really can't stand a lot of close-up action scenes with shaky cam. If you can't film a action scene without having that shaky cam, it just is a big waste to me. There isn't really any characters to really latch onto besides Gerard Butler's character. There is this other character played by Mark Colter. He is a guy that is wanted for murder, and he was all chained up, and he was transporting him on this plane. Now, them two, they work really good together. I found the foreign guys, the villains that are attacking them and trying to hold them hostage, I thought they were kind of boring. I really didn't really get into anybody. I didn't feel like anybody was one specific leader, and it just didn't feel like they really had a big organized way of how they were going to hold these guys hostage and what they were really going to do with them. I found out the screenplay was full of cliches and stuff that we've seen done 100 times, and the way that they choose to end this film and wrap it up, it just didn't feel very believable to me. It felt like they were trying to incorporate a lot of movie magic into it, and it was a little bit hard to take serious, especially towards the end of this film, even though it has some pretty high, fast-paced action towards that last 15-20 minutes of the film. It just didn't feel like it was a story that really added up, a story that really made a whole lot of sense. It seems like it had some plot holes, and it really drags the film down for me. They didn't really use the rating to its advantage because it's a rated R movie. It could have been a lot more violent. They have this island, they have all these trees. They could have hit out and picked off people one at a time, but we don't really get a lot of action in the trees. A lot of it is just on this beach, or it's in this small little village, and it doesn't really utilize everything that it really could on this island. And I felt like there is some budget restraints in this film, especially when the plane is going down and they crash on this island. Everything is inside this plane. You don't see the plane really much, so a lot of action happening outside the plane, and I think that has to do with budget constraints. And I think that's where this film is held back, because I think they really didn't use a lot of blood in this film. There isn't a ton of violence in this film. It's just kind of spread out. And the film, it feels a little bit kind of dragged as the film keeps going on. So for me, it's just kind of an average film, a film that you would probably stream, a film that a lot of people will probably forget about, and I guarantee you'll find the DVD on this in the Walmart $5 bin at some point, because I just don't feel like this film is very memorable. It's just a film that it just doesn't feel like it really just goes for it. It just feels like it just goes by a run-of-the-mill kind of film. It's very cliched, and it has plot holes that definitely could have used a little bit of touching up. So I would give a score of this film a 2.5 out of 5. It's just an okay film for me. I can't say that I would be really rushing out to watch this film again. There was a point in this film where I almost nodded off because it was a little bit boring to me, which I usually don't do in a theater, but this film, for whatever reason, it had that vibe where it just didn't give off a lot of action to me at points, and I felt that it stalled a little bit and just didn't use its budget to the full extent that it could have. But thank you guys for watching this review. Let me know in the comments, did you like this film? Did you hate it? Was it kind of meh? Are you even going to check it out, or are you going to wait for streaming? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on my next review.